Markus, welcome to Locked In, another Massachusetts resident. The crowd, I say this every time, they love the Massachusetts ones.
Well, originally, yes, I live in Mass now, but I came from Florida and I did my time in Florida.
Even better. The Florida prison stories are crazy.
Yeah, pretty wild.
And you said you do trucks now, or you do something that you listen to?
No, I work at a golf course.
Oh, golf course, like lawnmowers.
Yes. A lot of mowing like all the time. A lot of physical labor, but I like it. I enjoy it.
You know what I think is so cool about the show is like an average listener of the show can hit us up, come on, and they get to like experience it. I don't know how many shows are like that podcasting wise.
Not a lot. I feel like that's why when I hit you up, I'm like, damn, I don't know if it's going to happen because I've seen like some pretty famous people. You know, you had JD on here. You had, you know, the bussing guy. So I just took a shot in the dark and you hit me back and I was like, let's do it.
Well, you know, those people started where, and I started exactly where, you know, you're starting if you want to get into content or if anyone wants to get into content. Everyone starts on that baseline. And I think some celebrities, not them, but in general, forget that they were all at that baseline before.
Right.
And to me, that the people that aren't famous are the most fascinating because no one's heard your story before. Not even your significant other out there has heard it.
Full disclaimer, my mom, my sister, like nobody, there's going to be some shit told that a lot of people would not expect. A lot of people have never heard. I was just a very secretive person. I didn't want to be judged. And I felt like a lot of the shit that I've been through, not judged in like a bad way, like I'd be a bad person, but just, I don't know, I just felt like people would look at me completely different. So, and I didn't need sympathy from nobody either. That's also another reason why I never really told my story like that.
What kind of inspired you to share your story?
Just listening to the podcast, man. Like I know a lot of people have been through crazy shit and, you know, everybody, but I just felt comfortable. As soon as the first time I listened to your podcast, I'm like, this is something because like you said, there's normal Joes that, you know, nobody knows, but, you know, somebody could have went through something just as bad as, you know, Mike Tyson or, you know, you yourself, you know what I'm saying? And I just think it just made me comfortable and I was just like, yeah, I'm ready to do it.
Yeah, like I want to normalize people being able to talk about prison openly because for so long the world doesn't accept that. You know, if you tell something about prison, you lose your job or people don't hire you, you know. Now it's normal because I've done almost 300 interviews, so there's 300 other people that have come before you that have shared their story.
Right.
And there's going to be thousands and thousands more. So I think, you know, the more you put out there, the more it normalizes it.
Yeah, it was actually, I was listening to one of your recent podcasts and you were talking with a woman and you had mentioned like, this is something that's never going to lose content because look at the prison systems. It's overpopulated. There's millions and millions of people that are locked up. And it's just never, you could get a million stories. And like you said, you won't even be able to get as many stories as you want because there's just so many.
Yeah, that's why I did 5 a week. Like we were so backlogged and I'm still backlogged with doing 5 a week, but I can't physically do more than 5. That would be crazy. But the 5 a week's cool. And, you know, you keep it around like that hour sweet spot where you go through enough of the person's story to gain interest. So it could lead to more opportunities for them. You know, people reach out from all over because they feel and relate to these guests on some level. Yeah. Because they realize they're similar in a way. And it's just interesting.
Yeah.
Where in Florida did you grow up?
So I grew up in Orlando. And so let me just, I'll give you the basic facts. So I was born in Boston originally. Mm-hmm. I lived in Boston for a little bit, couple of years. Then my mom moved us out to New Hampshire. Me, my sister, my dad left when I was younger. And we were in New Hampshire for most of the time of real shit. Like people think of New Hampshire and think it's like super nice and shit like that. But you look up Nashua, New Hampshire, their nickname is Trashua because it's horrible. There's a lot of drugs out there, a lot of violence. Not much of my story was there. I mean, I've fought a lot, just normal kid shit, you know, vandalism, fights, breaking into shit. But my story really didn't kick off until I did go to Florida, which I was like 12 or 13. I did get arrested once in New Hampshire for carjacking and crashing the car with my friends. The cops showed up at my house, and my mom was like, yeah, take him, let him learn his lesson. And then we're sitting in like the regular jails with the slam gates, and it's like just me and 3 of my best friends, and we're all singing that Akon song, Locked Up. It was a good time. Like, we probably should have been, like, lesson learned, but it didn't really teach us anything because they really didn't do anything serious. I think I had community service.
What a great song. I was in New York City last night and I heard that song playing on like those bikes. So they were all outside playing that. Yeah. I always think about prison when that happens.
Every time.
What's with kids and jacking cars? Like what's that fascination? I'm seeing that more now than ever.
I think it's the fact, like, we used to ride bikes everywhere. Like, I'd ride for miles and miles and miles, like whether we're going to a party at night or whatever the case may be. So, like, the opportunity presented itself. It was me, my friend Quazel, and my friend Aaron. And Aaron was at this girl Hillary's house, and he calls us. He's like, yo, Hillary, we could take Hillary's dad's car. And I was like, fuck it, let's do it. So we took his car. I think it's more the fact that, like, we're kids getting to drive with no, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like, my mom's taken me driving underage before, but it's not the same. It's like, we have a car right now. We can do whatever the hell we want, and, we'll worry about the consequences later. But I think that's like a big thing. It's just like the freedom aspect of it. Like, nobody's telling the kids or, teenagers what to do.
How did your mom, did she raise you differently after you got arrested that first time? Or was she kind of still letting you live your life? Or
So my mom kind of lived by, and my mom's a great mom. I love, that's my rock. She just kind of lived by, like, if she was able to do it and it wasn't like, detrimental, like it wasn't horrible, then she can't really say anything to me if I try something or do something in the same, context, because, she's done it. So who would she be to say something to me? So my mom was really chill, laid back. She was definitely overprotective. But I also had the attitude that, like, nobody can really tell me shit. I'm going to do what I want to do regardless. I was always sneaking out the house. Like, my curfew was like 10 o'clock, but my room was on the first floor, and I'd just sneak out. Yeah. My sister was the good one. Yeah, my older sister was a good one.
Were you guys close?
Yes. We had our, regular sibling rivalry fights, but yeah, we were very close. We're still close to this day. I talk to her and my mother every single day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What changed when you got to Florida that kind of set the trajectory for the rest of your life?
So my mom ended up dating this dude, John. And John, I could say, was probably the worst influence he wasn't really an influence on me. It was just the shit that he was doing it just enraged me. And, like, he kind of turned my mom away from me. So I was a big basketball player, very good.
You got the height.
Yeah, I was ranked, my senior year in high school, I was ranked 7th in the state leading scorers.
Wow.
And, but I think a big thing that fucked me up is, like, my mom used to go to every single basketball game I had, no matter what time it was or when it was. And then as soon as she started dating this guy and he moved in with us in Florida, that kind of stopped. He was, like, controlling her. So, like, I'm not putting no blame on my mom for how my life turned out. But, like, that, for me, that was a big part as to why, like, I just gave up on a lot of shit because I just didn't care at that point.
Are you craving a snack that's crunchy, savory, and totally guilt-free? Meet Flock Chips, guys. The ultimate high-protein, low-carb snack made from real chicken. These remind me of the pork rinds we used to have in prison, but let me tell you, Flock Chips are a way better version. I wish we had these puppies in prison. Same satisfying crunch, but packed with even more flavor and none of the guilt. Here's how much I love them. We keep these stocked in the studio, and even my dog Boone can't get enough of them. Don't worry, I share responsibly. And now you could try them too with 20% off your entire order. Just use the code LOCKEDIN at checkout. That's right, 20% off everything on their site. Snack smarter and treat yourself to the bold crunch of Flock Chips today. You, your crew, and maybe even your dog will thank you. Shout out to Flock Chips for sponsoring this episode. I'm about to go order some more of these. We're almost out. Do you think that you could have gotten to a pro level, or at least you could have played college ball? Got a scholarship?
Definitely. I had a ton of scholarship offers. I didn't care much. I lost the love that I had for the game. Like, I still love to play it, but I just didn't care, honestly.
What about coaches? Like, I feel like someone's so talented. You didn't have a good coach that was there for you, took you under his wing?
So I did. Coach Green at Celebration High School. He took me under his wing for a while, and I don't know what happened. I wasn't showing interest in wanting to, like, I didn't work out. Like, when everybody was in the gym working out, I was in the gym shooting and working on my skills, which, I mean, you'd think it would be hand in hand. But they were focusing their attention more on the center, my friend Rob Maychek, because obviously he's 6'7", 6'8". Out of us two, he had more potential just because of his height. I had better skills, but he had the height. So they just put all their attention on him. And I noticed that.
Now, were you getting into trouble at that high school at all? Or were you just, you were doing your sports, kind of going through life, going through the motion?
So I was fighting a lot outside. I never really got in trouble in the school. Besides, like, a few times I could have got in a lot of trouble, but my coaches, they pulled strings because I was literally holding that school on my back for basketball. But I remember there was this one incident. I had went to school. We had Four Loko Fridays. I would take a Xanax bar and drink a Four Loko like before school started, and then I had a couple of perks, and I'd take those. And I got kicked out of class because I guess I was just being super loud and obnoxious. So the teacher kicked me out of class, and then I came back in class and I was just being super disrespectful. Then they had the dean come down and get me, and I was being disrespectful to him. And then they put me in the nurse's office, and I was being disrespectful to her. So they called my mom, and they were like, you need to come get him because something is wrong with him. He's on, so they knew I was on something. And my mom came and she picked me up, and I think I slept for like 26 hours or something like that. And then I had to hear it from my mom because my mom was pissed off that I was getting in trouble in school. But most of the trouble was outside of the school. Like I said, for a while, I lived a double life. Like, I didn't want people, like my friends, my close friends, I didn't want them to know what I was getting into outside of that. And everybody just knew me as the basketball player. Yeah,
you must have been very popular, got the girls, good looking, and being a star athlete in that school.
Yeah, it was weird because, like, when I played basketball up north, that's not who I was. I was like 7th, 8th man. My coach didn't even play me really. And then I go to Florida, and it's like I took off. Like, I was a freshman playing freshman, JV, and varsity games. And yeah, it was definitely different. I was not used to being popular at all.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it much. I still, even though I was popular, I walked the halls with my headphones on and my head down. Like, I didn't, a lot of people soak that shit in. I really didn't.
Why do you think you were getting into trouble outside of school? Was there something that, you were trying to lash out maybe with your mom's relationship, or what was do you think that underlying reason?
So yeah, between my mom's relationship and then not having my dad, I think and a lot of attention would go to my sister as well, because she was like the smart one. She did very well in school. She got education scholarships for college and shit like that. So I just always felt like I was the ugly duck, or, the black sheep. So yeah, I just was trying to get attention, but not really get attention. Like, I was just trying to do something to numb the feeling that I had.
How much of your troubles that you would soon face, later on as you got older, do you attribute to not having a father figure in your life?
That's a tough question. I don't know. Maybe all of it.
And it's not to point blame, but you do have to consider, like,
no guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like somebody said, like, a mom can teach a young man to be a gentleman, but a mom cannot teach a young man to be a man, because it's not in their DNA. Like, they're women for a reason. You know what I'm saying? So, like, my mom, I'm respectful, I'm kind, I open doors, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, very respectful. But again, she wasn't teaching me how to be a man, because she was doing everything that she could.
Yeah, I mean, I see these young guys having kids and then not being in the kid's life. Like, you see the effects of it, and you listen to the show. I think 9 times out of 10 in every episode, the person did not have a stable home. And that's causing this. Like, when I get married, like, I want to make sure I could support the family and have kids in that regard. Like, granted, if I had a kid, like, happen to have one now, I would still make sure I was there for it, because those are the morals I grew up with. But
I think that is absolutely one of the biggest things, is a father's guidance. Like, yes, you need the mom, you need the dad, you need both of them. Necessarily, do they have to live together and be like this happy home? No, but ideally, you'd want that. And that's what I'm trying to provide for my children. But yes, a father's, teachings is huge. Like, he could have taught me, don't do this, don't do that. Like, obviously my mom telling me, don't do drugs, don't fucking go here, don't go there. But, like, that's mom, like, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think a father being in a child's life is huge.
So what happens after high school?
So, hold on. There was 2 tragic accidents, like, a year apart from each other. So my freshman year going into my sophomore year, I got injured because I used to ride skateboards as well. I'm just a walks of all life. I got a pretty bad injury. I tore my ACL, my MCL, my meniscus, basically every ligament in the knee that you could tear, I tore it. So I had surgery, and the doctors prescribed me pills. Mind you, my mom's boyfriend at the time was influencing me to take drugs. He introduced, like, the Perk 30s or the Blues, whatever anybody calls them. He introduced that shit to me. And then the following year, summer after that, I was in Orlando with 2 of my friends, and we were just standing on the block or whatever, and I got grazed by a stray bullet. And so my friend's mom brought me to the hospital. She acted like she was my mom, and this is the part that I was saying, like, there's shit my mom doesn't know about. She acted like she was my mom, so, I wouldn't get in trouble or whatever the case was. And so that's how that went down. And so I was introduced to the like hard pills at a pretty young age. And then after high school was like where everything was off. Like, everything was off the table. A criminal network was like my calling. Like, that's what we did. So me and a couple of friends, we just started kicking in doors. Not like innocent people. We didn't like to rob innocent people. We just mainly scouted drug dealers. And Yeah, so that's...
Why no college?
I don't know. I tried, but it wasn't for me. I felt like I didn't fit in. I was not thinking about college. I was not thinking about further education. The only thing I could think about really at that time was like just doing what I wanted to do. And that's how I live life. Like, I didn't want to be told what to do. I didn't want to be told, oh, here's this fucking essay, I need it done by Friday or you're going to fail. Like, I didn't want to hear none of that shit. So it wasn't for me.
Now, did you have access to these drug dealers to rob, or did you meet new people that brought you into this kind of life?
Nah, we had access. Me and my two friends, we just... It's a big thing in Florida. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, we'd get in contact with a couple of what we call jugs or fiends. We'd get in contact with them and be like, like basically like cops, where are you getting the shit from? And then they tell us, and then because they know we're not cops, we're out here trying to rob some shit. And so, yeah, that's how a lot of it went down until there was one robbery that we had hit. It was a drug dealer. We kicked in his door, and as soon as there was a woman, she like came out of nowhere. He was supposed to be home by himself. That's the tip that we got. She came around the corner, and one of my friends unloaded his pistol, and he shot it once. It hit her. As soon as he shot her, we fucking left the house and never turned back. And then from that day forward, I stopped, for like a couple years, I stopped hitting houses just because of that incident alone. Luckily, nothing transpired from that shooting. And yeah. And after that, I just got into using drugs heavy.
So you started becoming an addict yourself?
Definitely.
And that was after you took a break from committing robberies?
Yeah.
So what happens during those years of addiction?
So it started out with me just doing pills all the time, nobody noticing, because like even when I was in active addiction, like you could look at me and you wouldn't know that I was, using drugs. But it got to a point where, the pills were just way too expensive, and this guy I know, he was selling all types of shit, so I started getting like heroin from him. And at first I was just like sniffing it and shit, and then I randomly went to my family and I sat them all down and I was like, yo, I think I have a problem. I want to get better. And my mom was like super proud of that. So she didn't yell at me. She didn't fucking, harass me about anything. She didn't down talk me. She was just like, all right, we're going to do what we need to do to get you right. And she did that. She got me into, I don't know if you know who Darryl Strawberry is. He used to be
sounds familiar.
He's a famous baseball player. Okay. He was a vicious addict as well, but he has a facility in Florida. She got me into that facility. I was there for like 30 days or so. And when I got out, as every other addict, you just randomly think like, all right, I could do it again, but I'm not going to do it like I did before. And I did it again, and it just got probably 1,000,000 times worse than what it was before. And it was just a cycle of that. I probably went to that treatment center like 4 times. I had a job at Chili's. The last time I went to that treatment center, I had a job at Chili's, and I stole a ton of equipment from this Chili's. And one specific piece of equipment was like this big ass, like, I don't know, it had like a big battery pack with this long pole, and it you use it to mix industrial sized bowls of like sauce and shit like that. I had stole that, and I tried to fucking pawn it at the pawn shop like 2 minutes away from my house, which was the dumbest idea ever. And I end up getting a call from like detectives and shit like, oh, you need it. They're willing to not press charges if you bring it back. And I had already sold it, you know, not to that pawn shop, but to a pawn shop in a different county. And I said, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to take my chances. Like, you're not going to get that shit from me now. It's gone. So I told him, if you have to arrest me, you're going to have to find me. And I just went back to the treatment center.
And you kind of hid out at the treatment center? Or?
Yep.
Okay.
Because by law, whether you have, what's that shit called? A warrant or anything, if you're in a treatment facility, they cannot, unless I guess it's like murder or some shit, they cannot come and take you from that property.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
So how old are you around this time? Like early 20s? Or?
Early 20s, yeah.
Okay. So what happens after that?
So after that, I'm, you know, still on the run with the drugs, and I picked back up robbing. And I was doing everything. I was robbing. I was, you know, helping people get their shit off just so I could get shit. And particularly one night, I get kicked out of my house. I go stay at a friend's house. And the next day, you know, this kid asked me, he's like, yo, can you drive me around and help me sell some work? And, you know, I'll bless you, whatever you want to do. And I was like, yeah, I got you. So we're riding around, and, you know, my car gets fucked up or some shit because we had stopped at a little plaza, and I was checking my car, and nobody was doing anything at the time. We had picked up some random one of his friends or whatever, and so we're all outside the car. I'm looking under the hood and shit, and the cops pull up, and they're like, oh, the owner of this establishment said that he seen you guys, like, doing shit, smoking shit or whatever. And we're like, no, we're just checking on the car. So the cop tells me, he's like, all right, get away from the fucking car, sit down on the ground and put your hands behind your back. And we're going to separate all you guys. You go here, you go there. And so I'm sitting down on the ground, and the officer's talking to me. And the only thing that was open on the car was the hood. So we're in a pretty shitty part of the neighborhood, and he's looking on the ground or whatever, and he sees, like, you know, an old, crusty, dirty-ass needle, and he, like, kicks it between my legs, and he's like, oh, what's that? And I'm like, you know what the fuck it is? Like, you just kicked it at me. He's like, oh, that looks like my fucking right to search your vehicle. And I'm like, all right, so I see how this is gonna go. So he searches my vehicle. Mind you, this is my car. And there were two people in the back, a guy and a girl, and then there was my friend in the front with me. Well, the officer pulls out like an M&M tube, two of them. There was a blue one and a green one. I don't know why I remember this, but I do. And he like comes out, he's like, oh, what is this? And I'm like, I don't know, you found it in my back seat. This is my car. I've never sat in my back seat. So he dumps it out on the hood, and one was filled with like crack and one was filled with a ton of heroin. So he's like, well, somebody's going down for this. And I was like, well, it sure is not me, because, again, this is my car, and that was in the back seat. Like, put two and two together. Like, I wasn't going to snitch, but, like, nigga, put two and two together. But he didn't, and he put all of us in the car except the woman. The woman got to leave for whatever reasons. It was me and the other kid in the back of one car, and then my friend was in the back of another car. So I'm looking around. He lets my friend go for some reason, so then it's just me and this kid, and we're sitting here talking in the back seat. And he's like, come on, bro, like my brother's dying or some shit. His funeral's soon, or some bogus ass excuse to try and get me to take the charge. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it, bro. He's like, he's looking at me. I have a red bandana on my back pocket. He's like, oh, so you're a blood, I'm a blood. I'm like, bro, that none of this shit has anything to do with who's taking these drugs. So I'm like, he wasn't going for it. He starts crying. He's like threatening me. He's like, oh, when we get to jail, you already know what's up. And I'm like, I'm fine with whatever, but I'm not going to jail for this. So long story short, I end up going to jail. They let this kid out. And because of the whole possession 9/10 of the law shit, because I guess where it was in the back, I could reach there and touch it. Like if I could touch it, then it could be possibly mine. So they took me to jail for that. And for those charges, I was facing intent to distribute and trafficking of heroin. And I got out of that shit on an ROR. Yeah, an ROR.
Like a first-time offender type thing?
Nah, it was like release on your own recognizance, if that's how you say the word. It wasn't a first-time offender thing because I've had charges in Florida before that, but it wasn't like any stints or anything. Mm-hmm. So they released me on that. I get out. Within 24 hours, there's this kid that I used to sell to and who would get drugs for me that I knew. And I was like, yo, I need something, like not drug-wise, I need a lick. And he's like, oh, yeah, I got you, bro, I got you. So he tells me about this house I could hit with drugs and money and shit like that. And he's going to be the lookout. And so I go to the house and, you know, I go inside and, you know, I told him to call me if you see anything. But he called me before I got in the house. And then I was like, all right, I'll call you back when I'm inside the house. And then I hung up and he called me back like literally 10 seconds later. So I started feeling a little suspect. And then I get in the house and I heard a helicopter. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on, bro? So I just felt off and I come out the house, I get out the window. Now, if he was my lookout, where the cop was sitting, he had to have seen him because there was no back entrance to this place. So the cop's just sitting there and I like duck coming down and I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm fucked, dude. So I just take off running and I start running behind the houses. I hear him speed up. He gets out the car. I'm running like behind the houses, in between woods and the houses, and then like I get to a main road. It's called Poinciana Boulevard, and it's like a sub highway. It's not an actual highway, but it's like it's probably 60 miles an hour, and it's 2 lanes both ways. And I just run across that shit without looking, without anything, no hesitation. I run across. I get across the street. And there was like a cement wall that I had to jump. I jumped the cement wall and I'm like, fuck, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. So I come out and I was going to easily give up. I was going to get down. I was going to be like, because I was just tired. But one of the officers started running at me. And I wasn't for that, so I started fighting back. And they end up bringing like 6, 7 officers on me. They fucked me up completely. My face was fucked up. They cracked my sternum. They dislocated my shoulder. After they beat me up, they had to bring me to the emergency room. So I was in the emergency room for a little bit, and then they brought me to the infirmary.
And now you have the other charges plus these new charges on you too.
Yes, sir.
What did they hit you with for this one?
So for this one, they hit me with armed burglary, which is PBL. They hit me with aggravated assault on a Leo. They hit me with possession of burglary tools, and a couple of other like bullshit charges. But the main one that was gonna stick if it did was that armed burglary.
Armed burglary, okay.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening? Do they give you bail?
No.
Okay.
Because I was out on ROR on the other case. So fucking when I get arrested on that shit, it's like I already knew it was over. I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to have to fight these 2 cases from jail.
How does your mom respond to this?
My mom's pissed. My mom is like, dude, you just got arrested. You got out. And then you get arrested again. And I'm like trying to plead with her like it was a fucking setup. She's like, it doesn't matter if it was a setup or not. Like, you shouldn't have been doing it at all. And yeah, so she was pretty upset about it. My sister was pretty upset about it, but I mean, there's nothing they could really do. It was all me.
When you were sitting in that jail cell, are you thinking like, man, I'm throwing my life away?
Honestly, the way I was feeling, especially being on the dope and shit, I didn't even care, bro. Like, I didn't care what would have happened to me. I don't care if I would have died right then. I don't care. I didn't give a shit about my life at that point.
Mm-hmm. What happens next? Do you take a plea deal? Do you go to trial?
Okay, so the thing about Florida is if they can get you for drugs, because that's like one of the biggest arresting things out there is like drug cases. If they could get you for drugs, they're gonna get you for drugs. So I had a lawyer, and she was pretty good. She was like, so the two cases that I had, they were under two different judges. So the case with the trafficking shit, they were trying to hang me. Like, they were the first offer they gave me was like 25 or some bullshit number. And I was like, no, I'm not taking it. Because, like, realistically, that shit's not even mine. And I wasn't hearing nothing about the burglary case. So I sit her down and I'm like, look, if we're I'm trying to get this shit resolved so I can know what's going to happen with my life. And mind you, I was in county jail fighting this shit for like 11 months. And so she comes back and she's like, all right, I got a deal. She said, cause since we're at court for your burglary case, we're going to resolve that today. And then you're going to come back next week and you're going to sign, for the trafficking case. So she got me a deal where if I pled guilty to the offenses on the burglary case, I'd only have to do some like 30 months or some shit like that. And DOC, Florida DOC. So I was like, all right, well, what about this shit? She's like, the lowest they're going is 18. So I'm like, I mean, I'm not going to take it to trial because obviously they're going to smoke me. So I was just like, all right, we'll do it. I'll sign the 30 and then, I'll go back to the jail, come back next week and we'll sign this shit under the other judge. So I sign my 30, I go back to jail, and like 2 days later, there was like some breaking news shit. Like, I swear this shit is like a movie, bro. We're sitting in the day room and all you hear on the TV is breaking news. Officer Matthew Baxter and fucking lieutenant, I forget the lieutenant's name, was gunned down in the projects today. And I'm like, Matthew Baxter, that sounds real fucking familiar. So I went and I looked at the TV. This is the fucking cop that arrested me for the trafficking charge that kicked the needle between my legs. So I'm like, and then you hear everybody getting happy and shit. So I'm like, why is everybody getting happy? And my boy's like, yo, depending what happens after this, there's going to be a lot of people getting out of prison. If he was the arresting officer and he can't show up, there's going to be people getting out of, charges for this. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm sitting there. I was supposed to go back to court to sign the 18 or whatever. And I end up getting pulled at like 2 a.m. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? They're like, oh, you're going to FDOC. And I'm like, but I have court this coming week. And they're like, I don't know. It says you're going to Florida Department of Corrections, so you're going to Florida Department of Corrections. And that's how I ended up going to prison.
Without a sentence yet? Or are they sentenced you?
So I initially went to prison off my 30-month sentence.
Okay.
Not knowing what the fuck was going on with this other shit. I thought I had to go back to court. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, fortunately, they didn't bring me back to court.
And you just had to do 30 months on these other charges.
On these other fucking charges.
So on 30 months, how much do you have to do in Florida?
It's like 85% or some shit. So I ended up doing like I don't know, 26 months or some shit.
And what are you, around like 25 at the time?
Yeah. Close, yeah, like 24.
24, 25.
24, 25, some shit like that.
And this is your first like time.
This is my first actual like fucking stick it to him like you're doing some time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So take us through that experience. What's that like? What are some stories from
Bro,
prison?
honestly, prison was probably worse than the addiction. Like, not in the aspect of like, you know, being fucked up. Because when I went to prison, I was completely clean, sober, didn't really do shit. But, you know, so first you go to ORC, Orlando Reception Center. And there it's just like, it's just a bunch of wild animals. Like, there's people, so even though it's a reception center, they do have people that stay there as their main prison. And the thing Florida likes to do is, like, say you're from Orlando and you get arrested in Orlando, they're not going to send, in your sentence, you get prison time, they're not going to put you in Orlando prison. They're going to send you fucking 9-10 hours away. So you'd have people in the Orlando prison that are from Miami, you'd have, or Jacksonville, or, you know what I'm saying? So diesel therapy is a huge fucking thing for people coming into prison, because I probably hit, before I got to my main prison, I probably hit like 7 prisons.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was, almost every stop that we stopped at, dude, it was just fights and fight. Like, I was fighting all the time. I never stayed out the box, and yeah.
Well, how did your first prison fight go down?
So it's kind of funny. It was kind of like your cliche, like, go to prison, pick the biggest dude, and just fucking go on him. And that's what I did. I fucking went to prison. There was this fucking big, burly, lumberjack-looking motherfucker sitting down at the table, and I just walked by with my lunch tray, and I smacked him over the back. Because I knew if he would have got up, he would probably have smoked me, because he was like probably like 6'9", 320 pounds or some shit. But I just started hitting him repeatedly with the fucking lunch tray, and then I got hit from a guard this way, got hit from a guard this way, got sprayed with the black magic shit, and went to the box.
Did that guy provoke you at all?
No.
Or he was just a random guy?
He was just a random Joe Schmo sitting there trying to enjoy his lunch.
White guy or?
White guy, yeah.
See, so it's not just the white guys going after the biggest black guy. It's reversed too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it wasn't a race thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's a race thing when the white guys pick out the black guys.
It's just that
they happen to be the biggest guys there.
Right.
So would you, if there was a big black guy, would you have gone after him? Okay.
Yeah. I was looking for the biggest person. It didn't matter if they were orange, yellow, green, black, white. But this motherfucker just happened to be huge. And
so how does that guy treat you when you both get out of the box?
I didn't see him after that. Okay. Because that happened in Orlando, and I was being shipped around like fucking mail.
Why did you want to do that? Did you know that, like, that's how you would gain respect, or was that a safety mechanism in your mind? Or?
Nah, so originally I was like outside of prison. Like, when I was younger, I got affiliated with the Rolling 20 Bloods. So when it came to prison, I really wasn't scared of protection and shit. I just knew I was gonna run into somebody at some point, and they were gonna run my credentials, and they'd see I was okay, and then boom, there's your protection. But I just mainly did it just to, because I'm, you know, I was pretty skinny, so I just wanted to show motherfuckers that I'm not soft, so that's why I did it.
Did you have like a reputation by the time you got to your actual spot?
Yeah, so when I got to my actual spot, which is Action Jackson CI, probably at the time it was rated the second most violent prison in Florida. The other one you probably heard on your show was Lake Butler.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, recently I just interviewed a guy that was there.
Yeah, Lake Butler, they had this one fucking CO that if you had gold teeth in your mouth, he would get them out.
He would yank them from you?
He'd kick you in your face.
Holy shit.
Like, that is real shit. And that's, when I seen that happen, I was like, yo, thank God I don't have gold teeth, because he would just, as soon as you get off the bus in transit, he'd tell everybody, smile, open up. And then you're sitting there smiling. He treated everybody. And this is a big black guy, too. So, like, it didn't matter. Again, it wasn't a race thing because he was kicking other black dudes in their face. Like, he just had no respect for any of us.
Yeah, why do you think it's people from the outside that have never been to prison before think it's a race thing when people share these types of stories?
Because of the fucking media. The media, like movies and media, like they fucking set this stigma for prisons. Like, don't get me wrong, the West Coast is definitely segregated.
You have racial gangs.
You have racial gangs. I get that. But yeah, everybody thinks that prison is like, you know, don't drop the soap in the fucking shower. Like, nigga, I dropped the soap a million times and ain't nothing happened because there's dudes in prison that will give booty up for free. Like, you don't have to take it. But yeah, I think, you know, the media just painted this picture that it's blacks, whites, Mexicans, and that's it. It's just this all-out race war. But, like, little do they know there's fucking, you know, there's white Bloods, there's white Crips, there's white GDs, there's white everything. Like, it's not racial, especially in Florida.
And also everyone in most prisons is at an equal playing field. Like, you're an inmate. You don't have much.
No,
you know?
You don't have shit.
You have the same opportunity as another person.
Yep.
Unless you're like a shot caller with money or something like that.
Which honestly, in Florida prisons, there is no, I don't know how feds is, but in Florida prisons, you have like it's not a shot caller. Like, he ain't making plays with other gangs and shit like that, but you have your head of like the Bloods. You know, you got the head of your West Coast Bloods, you got the head of your East Coast Bloods, you got the head of the Crips, it's just like, I guess it's like a shot caller, but not a shot caller.
Yeah, it's very different. There's different terminologies
Right.
and this and that.
Right.
How are you making money in prison? Did you have to have like a little hustle?
Yeah, so we had cigarettes, Suboxone was a big thing. Just because of my history with addiction, I didn't really want to touch the Suboxone like that. So I just mainly sold cigarettes, and that's it. We would pay we'd pay fucking somebody that works outside the gate. We'd pay them a couple $100. They shove, a carton of cigarettes up their ass, and
a full carton.
Yeah, not like with the box and shit. So like what they would do is like, we'd have our people on the outside. Hey, go pick up the cheapest, nastiest cigarettes you can buy, which were usually these brown fucking nasty cigarettes that like old addicts smoke. And you'd put them in the microwave. You'd mic them for like a minute or so. You get them soft, and then you fucking saran wrap them and like suck them in. And then you tape them, put some more saran wrap, tape them, glove them, or condom. And then boom, you got your sack. And now they're like these little bullets of fucking cigarettes. There was kids shoving fucking 15 packs of cigarettes in their ass.
Imagine smoking a cigarette that came out of someone's ass. I know guys do it all the time.
I've done it.
Normal.
I've
you
fucking
smoked
done
a
it.
cigarette?
Yes, bro. It's not like you taste it though. It's like
no, but it's a thought of it. That's like an exotic food. If you're eating like something, no, I'm serious. If you're eating like it's a thought of knowing. You know?
Of knowing
like
where it came from.
If you're smoking that cigarette and a guy comes up to you and is like, "That was just in my ass."
Yeah.
Your opinion's gonna change. Imagine how many things we don't know we're consuming that we're somewhere fucking disgusting.
Yes, definitely.
Like you look at kitchens, how many things drop on the floor,
and people just pick it up real quick.
Yeah, like a raw meat. Yep. That happens all the time.
Yeah, but that's the thing. People still do it. It's the insanity of just human pleasure. Like, human satisfaction is gonna outweigh where my fucking cigarette came from. I don't care if it was in somebody's ass. Like, I know it was wrapped. But see, that's the thing. I know my cigarettes were wrapped right. Like, yeah, it was coming out his ass, but it don't taste like shit. But, funny story, there was somebody who had cigarettes brought back in. I guess there was like a hole in the bag or some shit. And the dude was like burning the cigarette, and it started smelling like shit. And he's like, "Yo, why does my cigarette smell like shit?" And I was, people would probably tell him like there's probably a hole in the bag, or they didn't wrap it good, because you really have to wrap those fucking things. Like, if you're putting it in someone's ass, you got to wrap it tight.
That is too funny.
Yeah, it's wild.
What do you think was the wildest moment you've witnessed in prison,
So
either to you or someone else?
I have two.
All right, give it to us.
So one of them that happened, well, technically two, but one of them carries on to another transition of something that happened as well. So my first actual day at my prison, Jackson CI, I get there, you got to go to classifications again. And in classifications, they have somebody called a gang warden. Now, I didn't know it's called a jacket. It's like your gang file from the street. I didn't know, or I wasn't thinking at the time that from the street is going to follow me to inside the prison. So, my big homie always told me, like, yo, when you touch down, like, don't reveal who you are. So I'm like, all right, cool. So the gang warden calls me in. You got to strip butt naked. They got to fucking look at you. And these dudes are like highly trained professionals. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but they can look at tattoos and they can tell you exactly what set you might be from, or you know what I'm saying? So he's doing that and he's like, oh, so you run with these guys. And I'm like, nah. And he's like, he gives me a weird look. And then he starts like, he starts raising his voice. He's like, oh, so you're just going to sit here, you're going to be a fucking bitch and a pussy, and you're just going to hide behind shit. And I'm like, he's like, really, you don't understand. I'm trying to fucking help you, because if you told me who you were, I'd put you with your people. And he's like, so for lying to me, I'm not going to put you with your people. So I'm like, I fucked up. So he brings me to the dorm. They open the dorm. It's like a butterfly shit. And as soon as I walk in, I realize, I'm like, fuck. He's putting me in a dorm with all like Nazis and fucking, bikers and dirty white boys, skinheads, like all them type of people. And I'm like, fuck. So as soon as I walk in the dorm, it's like the record came off the fucking player, because everybody's just staring at me. And I'm like, I just want everybody to know I'm not a bitch. I'm not a pussy. If anybody's feeling some type of way, I'm not going to be here long. But if anybody's feeling some fucking type of way, we can line this shit up now, get it out the way. I'll happily fight everybody one-on-one. Just let me get it fair. And nobody said nothing. So I go and I put my shit luckily I got a cell by myself for the time being. And I go and I put my shit down and I'm just like, all right, well, I'm just going to take a nap. And, I'm taking a nap. And this is literally probably like maybe an hour or so after this happened. And I feel some shit go over my face. I feel some shit go over my legs. And then it honestly felt like somebody punched me in my hip. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then I hear people run off, whatever. So I take the shit off my face. And then I look down and I'm like, oh shit. There's like blood all down my pants. So I didn't want to panic or nothing. So I just walk out and I'm like, yo, like I'm trying to look to see if there's anybody with blood on him. There's not. So I'm just like, all right, well, I'm bleeding kind of serious. So I just went up to the fucking, the window and I told the officers something had happened. Like I didn't say anything happened physically. I just said, I hit my hip on the side of the bunk, because the bunks are actually pretty sharp in there. They took me out. They brought me to the hospital. I was there for like 2 weeks. And then I got back to the fucking camp. And when I got back to the camp, there was actually a dude. They switched me out that dorm. But there was a guy in that dorm. He was part of, I think it was Unforgiven. He comes to me and he's like, look, what happened to you a couple weeks ago shouldn't have happened. He said, if anybody had a problem, like you said, they should have lined it up. He's like, and because I felt like what happened wasn't done right, he's like, here, these are the two people that did this. And I was like, all right, word, bet. So I just let it play off like I was going to be a pussy about it and not do anything about it. And then, maybe 2 weeks after that, we catch the same two fuckers on the yard, me and 3 of my other acquaintances. And give them back the same shit they were asking for.
Wow.
And like, I don't like to, so a lot of people have an issue with people talk, like I'm not boasting in stabbing or, violence. But again, like you said, is like, I'm trying to tell people this shit for the reasons to not go to prison. Like this shit happens, and this shit happens a lot. And, Jackson CI, there was stabbings that were so reoccurring that we were fucking stuck on our bunks for like 3 months.
Even in the dorm, you would just be
in the dorm, stuck on your bunk, sit on your bunk. So what do they
say? You can't leave your bunk?
Can't fucking move.
Unless it's for the bathroom.
So
what do you do on the bunk all day?
Bro, fucking.
I feel like that's worse than not being in the cell.
It's horrible, dude. It's fucking horrible. Like, it's worse than the box, honestly. Because, like, in the box, you could get up, you could do push-ups, you could fucking do this, you could do, like, you're literally stuck on your bunk. And you move, you're fucked. So, dude, I just read a lot because books were like my movies. I'm not a drawer. I fucking am not artistic at all. I rapped a little bit. A big thing that like I would do for people is like I'm a jukebox. Like I memorized probably 1 million songs. So like people would come up with requests, like especially during that time when we were stuck on our bunks, and I just fucking sing songs for motherfuckers.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So how old are you when you got out?
Shit. How old am I now? I'm 32, so 27, 28.
Did
28?
You have probation?
No. And let me tell you, when I was like a couple of months into my bid, I ended up calling my sister and asking her if she could find anything out about that case that I was supposed to go back to court on. And she's like, all right, let me look it up. So she looks it up and she's like, I can't find anything. Like, it's not even in the system. And I'm like sitting there thinking, I'm like, shit, are they playing with me right now? And then after that day, I just kind of not tried to think about it. And I was just waiting, I'd wait to see if they were going to bring me to court. And they never brought me to court. Nothing transpired from it. Fucking, yeah.
So you didn't even have probation attached to this 3-year sentence at all? Nothing. It was just a straight clean 3.
Straight clean 3.
Wow.
Yep.
So why did you decide to come back to Massachusetts? And when was that?
So after I got out of prison, funny story, maybe 20 hours after being released, I got fucking arrested again.
For what?
Possession. Felony possession, and then fucking that was done. I got out.
You had got more time for that?
I did like 20 days in county jail,
okay.
But that shit's like sleep time.
Yeah, especially after you just get off a 3-year bid.
Right. Yeah, that shit was so sweet. And then like I don't know what the fuck was wrong with me, bro, because you would think after not doing drugs for so fucking long, like I'd just be done. But for some reason, I thought I could just do it again recreationally, and that's not what happened. So like I started fucking up again, and I wasn't trying to get in trouble. So my mom found this place in Chicago called Restoration Ministries. Ray Banks, he's like this big fucking dude out there. He was on like A&E and shit. So she called him and she's like, oh, I want my son to go to your program. So I was like, all right, well, I'm not really into like, Jesus and the Bible and shit like that. But fuck it, I'll give it a try. So I flew out to Chicago. I did Restoration Ministries for like a couple months. But again, I have a problem with authority. And like they were trying to take my phone from me and shit. And I just wasn't letting that happen. Like I kept sneaking phones. I got caught for phones like 6 times before they actually was like, all right, we don't want you here no more. Yeah. So then after that, they got me a ticket to Massachusetts because my dad was out here. So I called my dad and I'm like, yo, I know, the history hasn't been great, but like I need a place to stay. And he thought about it for a minute, and then I'm like, well, either way, I'm coming. So you're going to pick me up from the airport, and that's that. Or from the train station. And my dad ended up picking me up from the train station. And then, yeah, fucking stayed at his house for a little bit, started fucking up again. And then I went to another fucking facility in Tewksbury. And then that's when everything was like kind of getting better. But I was just, I don't know, dude. I was just in and out of shit. Like I wasn't happy with myself. And so like using would just make that shit go away. But then, you know, I met my wife. And even after I met her and had a baby and we have 3 fucking beautiful kids together, like I was still fucking up a little bit here and there. And this last time, like the most recent time, it wasn't like a crazy run. It just, I had crashed a car with me and my son in it. Like it flipped and shit. And I wasn't under the influence or anything. But it was a eye opener. Like DCF got involved. My wife didn't want me at the house. I couldn't even go to the house because of DCF. So I ended up going to a treatment center, not really seeking treatment, but kind of seeking like, why the fuck do I feel how I feel? Like just not giving a fuck about shit. Sorry. So I did a lot of work on myself. Like what the fuck is really the issue here? And this place out in Falmouth, Massachusetts, helped me do that. They took me serious when I told them something was wrong. You know, I had top-notch fucking, what do you call them, counselors and, you know, drug therapists, and I had like crystal healers, and I had all types of shit, but they helped me. And yeah, from that time forward, I ain't looked back. Like I haven't even thought about doing nothing.
What were you able to discover about yourself in that treatment center?
I was just an angry motherfucker, man. I was mad. I was mad at the world. I was mad at myself. I was mad at my mom. I was mad at my dad. I was mad at everything, bro. I was just angry. I always wanted to fight, especially prison didn't make that any better because of the violence. You know, it's not like JIT camp. Like, it's not fighting like that, but it, like, certain prisons, there's a lot of violence going on. Like I told you, we were stuck on our bunk for fucking 3 months because people just couldn't stop stabbing people. And, you know, I was even part of that. And, you know, I did want to say, like, I think one of the worst story that has the most effect on me today is, because I still have PTSD from prison and shit, which I'm pretty sure mostly everybody does. But there was this dude, because I know you talk about corruption a lot, and I know chomos come up a lot on this show.
Of course.
So, and I wanted to tell you this because how you express chomos and shit. So I was at Jackson, and this is a few weeks after I retaliated for the people that stabbed me. So we're in the cells or whatever, in the dorm. You know, some people in the cells, some people in the day room. And there was like some weird fucking knock on the window. And I asked my boy, I'm like, yo, what the fuck is that? He's like, oh, just watch. And I'm like, okay. So they bring this dude in. And like from the moment I seen him, this dude reeked of chomo, bro. Like it was bad. Like he had those fucking wire glasses. He had like a patch of hair. He was super scrawny. Like he just looked not good. And they ended up putting him in a cell with this dude, Boone. Now, Boone is serving like 7 life sentences. And he's also huge and black and never talks. And so he goes, you know, he puts his stuff down in the cell. He comes out, he's sitting in the day room. That night, everybody goes into lockdown. And fucking, oh, I forgot to tell you, the knock was to let us know that they were bringing in a chomo. That's what I wanted to let you know. So fucking, yeah, so we're in our cells and shit, and at like 3, 4 in the morning, we hear scream. Like, I've never heard a man scream like this in my life. And, like, you hear screaming for, like, 5 minutes. And then you hear, like, gurgling. And then, like, everything completely stops. And, you know, a couple minutes after that, all the corporals, all the sergeants, everybody comes in. Everybody get the fuck out your cells. Don't put nothing on. Come out in your boxers, blah, blah, blah. So we all come out and fucking, I looked, you know, Boone's cell was like 3 or 4 cells down from mine. And I look on the ground and I just see like a pool of blood like coming outside his door. So I'm like, God damn, what the fuck happened in there? So they're telling Boone to come out. They're like, come out your cell, Jones. Come out your cell, Jones. He comes out, and from the blood on the floor, I'm thinking he's going to walk out and be covered in blood. He comes out, all white, crispy, clean boxers on, no blood on him, nothing. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I was like, I wanted to see what the fuck happened in there. And fucking my boy's like, bro, don't do it. Because whatever's in there, it's going to fuck you up. And I'm like, nah, fuck that. I'm going to do it anyway. So I went and I looked, and Boone had this guy, like, you know how bunks are. They got the metal bunk on top. They got the metal bunk on the bottom. Our bunks had holes in them. Boone tied a sheet to hang this kid with his feet up, and, like, his dick was cut off.
Holy shit.
And then from that moment, I just was like, I've been fucked up ever since from that shit. Like, my wife will tell you this. When we first got together, dude, I was waking up screaming. I was waking up sweating. I was waking up all types of fucked up, bro.
What happened to him, to Boone?
Boone?
Yeah.
They just keep shipping him around prisons. They can't do anything.
And the Tromo, did he survive?
Nah, he's dead.
He died from that?
He died, yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
So the guy must have changed his clothes?
He had to have done something, because there's the amount of blood that was on the floor, bro. There's no way you didn't get any blood on you.
You know what's crazy is that nothing probably happens to those prison guards.
No, dude. I've seen guards. So I was in the box one time. I've seen guards beat the fuck out of a dude in the box, because the box is the only place that doesn't have cameras. Beat the fuck out of him, leave him in there, almost, you know, clinging to life. Come out, come back the next day in the morning and act like they got somebody in the cell that's fucked up.
It's fucking nuts.
It's nuts, bro. It's crazy. They got, you know, there's guards in there that are on payroll, dude. There was, you know, the big homie for the West Side Bloods was paying a woman guard to fuck anybody who wanted at leisure. Like, it's crazy.
It's
bro.
all corrupt, man. The system.
It's so fucked.
Yeah. People don't really realize that unless you've experienced it, or you watch these shows and stuff.
Right.
So, what do you think is like the most important thing you've learned? You know, going through the system, getting your life back together after. What do you want people to learn from your story?
So, I want people, especially the younger generation, like, I want them to know that, like, you know, find something you're good at and stay focused on that. Even if there's odds against you, don't let that bring you down, because that's what happened to me. I let my odds against me ruin me, because I could have been somewhere totally different. But if you have dreams, you have aspirations, fucking follow them. Especially now. Now's the time to do it. In this new world, like, there's superstars being born overnight, and you don't have to necessarily be a superstar. You could be like me. I enjoy fucking mowing grass, bro. Like, I like doing what I do. I can be the best one at what I do. But, you know, stay out the streets. The streets are not for anybody but people who really don't respect themselves. And, you know, it's nothing to... It's not bad to do the right thing. And that's what I try and do now. Like, even when nobody's looking, it's called integrity. Like, I have that. Like, if somebody's like, you know, don't do this, or like, I'm trying to give an example of like when nobody's looking. Like, I don't know, like today you walked out, you dropped your camera shit. You didn't ask me to do it, but I picked it up. It's just little shit. Like, it builds my character to know that I'm a nice person. Like, And that's how I want the world to be. I want there to be more nice people.
Yeah, just be kind to people. It
That's
goes a long
bro.
way.
That's
Give
it.
back when you can, and keep doing you.
That's it, man.
Awesome, man. Well, Markus, thank you so much for coming out here. And, it's great to hear your story and connect. And thank you for being such a big supporter and listener of the show.
Always, bro. I love this show, man. It's the best.
For people listening, the number one thing you could do to support the show is just sharing it with a friend. Share your favorite episode. Put it on social media, because that'll get it out there to more people. If you have a favorite episode, just, share it with someone.
Gotcha. I'm always putting your name out there anyways, but yeah, I'll definitely keep sharing.
Yeah, well, and just anyone listening, I appreciate it, and we're growing, and we're not even at the tip of the iceberg. It's going to keep going, and we'll get there. And for people that want to come on the show, just go to the website, fill out the form, and we'll get you on.
He'll make it happen.
We'll make it happen. Well, enjoy your evening tonight with your wife, and safe travels back to Mass.
Thanks, brother.